This does raise a lot of thorny issues in terms of administering it at the school. How does it impact school nurses in particular? Are they for it, against it? The president of the Colorado Association of School Nurses, Patti Rojec, is not for it. She joins us via Skype, along with Heather Manus, a founding member of the Cannabis Nurses Network, who supports the new law. And Patti, I want to start with you because you have some concerns with this amendment. Explain why.
The Colorado Association of School Nurses took a position of opposition to this legislation, mostly because of a concern about nurses' ability to safely administer this at school. As you know, nurses are required to operate within a certain scope and standard, and there's a lot of questions about whether giving medical marijuana is actually within a nurse's scope. The issue also came up regarding malpractice insurance. Nurses found that their malpractice insurance carriers were not willing to cover this practice. And in fact, I was told personally by my insurance carrier that if this became part of my school nursing practice, that I would be dropped. Wow. So the other concern is that this legislation was permissive rather than directive, and it gave the nurse and put the nurse in the position of deciding whether this was a practice that they wanted to, a law that they wanted to comply with or not. Students like Quintin are the reason that school nurses are in school. It's those medically fragile kids are why we do what we do.
Heather, I want to bring you into the conversation. You're for the amendment. I think everyone here is for providing the right medications to kids, but I have to say that Patti raised some really concerning elements to this that maybe I didn't even think about.
This is the law, and as nurses, we're really good at adapting. And so we understand from the Cannabis Nurses Network perspective that school nurses are being put in a position right now to do something and work with a medicine that they've not been trained to work with. And so one of the roles that we play as cannabis nurses is to educate other nurses and to help them understand. I know from a school nursing perspective that it would, when we have children that are medically fragile and seizures are the issue, it's a lot more difficult perhaps to deal with a child having a seizure at school than it would be to actually just administer a few drops of cannabis tincture under the tongue or something like that.
Just to clarify for our viewers and for everyone, so Jack's Law was put into place in Colorado, which allowed a designee or the parent to come in and administer medical marijuana to their child if appropriate. And this Quintin's amendment is just now delegating that responsibility to school nurses. And so the nuance is, should this responsibility really be placed on the nurses, or is this something that should directly be happening between the parent or caregiver and the school? And so I think that's where these questions are arising, because school nurses previously had not been put in this position. They may lose their liability insurance.
Well, and that's unacceptable. I mean, I understand the position that, and I think we agree as physicians, there is a place for medical marijuana, but at the same time, the nurses have to be protected.
There's only one FDA-approved CBD oil-derived medication right now from the FDA. It's called Epidiolex, and that's from purified CBD oil, and that is FDA-approved for seizures. But the problem is in states like Colorado, and including the medication Quintin himself takes, those are not FDA-approved medications as yet. Those are being dispensed by a medical marijuana dispensary, so the dosing varies really widely. And I think that's, to Patti's point, the difficulty that nurses now have, because there's such a range of medications now they're being asked to give. Some of them may not even be FDA-approved medications, so it's not standardized. And as a nurse, and even as a physician, that puts a lot of responsibility on you and makes it a little bit challenging for each individual situation to address it appropriately. I think everybody agrees that medically fragile kids need that extra attention, but is it an undue responsibility to place on the school nurses?